How are you all doing, guys? Let's just bring this microphone here. How are you doing, guys? I'm so tired. I started yawning like a couple of minutes ago, and now I'm really tired. I just want to go sleep. Anyway, so we are gonna look at some 10 horror movie rip-offs you won't believe exist.
When it comes to the world of movies, horror especially, a lot of studios like to copy each other's homework. Often they're not too blatant about it, but think of how
Piranha is such a brilliant film, it really is. I love the Piranha film. Well, Piranha 3D. Kind of don't like the other two Piranha films. Piranha 3D is the only good one for me.
movies try to capitalize, say, on Friday the 13th success or the amount of found footage flicks that popped up in the wake of Paranormal Activity. But other times, well, you probably just won't believe how they ever expected to get away with it.
I know the rip-off of Paranormal Activity is Marlon Activity, is it something like that? You know, it's with Marlon in. And it's kind of like a Paranormal Activity, but it's more comedic. You know, you got the, I think it's Haunted House. You got Haunted House and you got Haunted House 2. In Haunted House 2, Gabriel Iglesias is in it. In Haunted House 1, well, Gabriel Iglesias isn't in it. Marlon and the other cast is. Let's continue.
Popculture.com, and these are 9 horror movie rip-offs you won't believe it.
9? It says 10! What are you doing lying to me?
Number 9, Bloody Murder. Written by John R. Stevenson and directed by Ralph E. Patillo, Bloody Murder and its sequel, Bloody Murder 2 Closing Camp, are like kindergarten collages of ideas and scenes snipped from better movies.
This is already bad. It's a terrible rip-off of Jason. Why? Why are you ripping off Friday the 13th? The terrible hockey mask.
The biggest lift, of course, is from Friday the 13th. The setting is Camp Placid Pines, covering for Camp Crystal Lake, of course, and the killer wears a hockey mask and boiler suit combo. There's also a suspiciously similar plotline involving an urban myth of a bullied and abused child who, fully grown, now supposedly haunts the woods near the camp. His name, as well, is Trevor Moorhouse, because I guess Moorhouse would have been...
Verhouse is Voorhees. Trevor Verhouse. Trevor Verhouse. So stupid, man.
Step too far. To be fair though, Big Trev isn't actually the main killer here. Instead, Placid Pines' not-so-happy camp counselors are being terrorized by a psychopath with a grudge because of an incident in the past that sees a person cosplaying as Moorhouse in order to carry out the murders. Both films spin out various unlikely red herring scenarios before the mass murderer is revealed, and if that sounds oddly similar to the plot of every Scream movie ever, then congratulations, you've just identified the other major lift this franchise makes.
Even some of the Scream films, they're just so bad. Like the latest Scream film, that was so bad.
Number 8, Creature. A huge multinational corporation sends a ship to investigate an alien presence.
So, I'm guessing Creature is a rip-off of Alien. Alien's a creature is an alien, so it must be Alien that it ripped off.
An alien monster finds its way aboard and infects the crew, turning some of them into parasitized extensions of itself.
Alien, I think. It's either Alien or Predator. Predator versus Alien? Is it Predator versus Alien, or is it Predator versus Hunter, or whatever?
And isolated, victimized by gruesome death and sinister sabotage, the crew are forced to fight back.
What the hell is that? Yeah, this is definitely a very crap remake of Alien. Or Predator.
Eventually ejecting the creature through the airlock and then blowing it up.
Oh, come on, seriously? Blow it up as like a bomb? That literally just looks like it blew up like a bomb. Oh my god.
That description that I just read out there reads as though it was written in a deliberate attempt to cannibalize the best storylines and set pieces from both Alien and John Carpenter's The Thing, which, by an astonishing coincidence, is exactly what the experience of watching Creature is actually like. When it comes down to it though, Creature isn't really a truly terrible movie. There's a little talent at work here, which unfortunately makes the brazen plot theft all the weirder. It's kind of like shoplifting snacks when you can afford to pay for them, just doing it for a laugh I guess, because why not? Number 7, Pet Graveyard.
Pet Graveyard. Pet Cemetery? It's gotta be Pet Cemetery. And it's gotta be a rip-off of Pet Cemetery. It's gotta be. Because a cemetery is a graveyard. A graveyard is a cemetery.
Fortunately, they can't all be pleasant surprises, and Pet Graveyard is the very definition of an unpleasant surprise. From Mockbuster Factory Millman Productions, hang on, I'm definitely going to have to phone Ash and ask her about that one when I finished here. Pet Graveyard, as should be obvious from the title, is a rip-off of Stephen King's Pet Sematary.
Boom! I know. Oh, that child's gonna get hit by a truck. There, he's got a freaking Baby Shark t-shirt on. Let him die.
To cash in on the new 2019 adaptation of the novel 30 years after the original movie was released. At least that's how you'd expect things to go, wouldn't you? Because it turns out that Pet Graveyard is not an unofficial remake of Pet Sematary, and the only cash in here is the title and the poster looking extremely similar. So, what blockbuster movie is this movie mockbusting, I hear you ask? Well, it's 1990's brilliant Flatliners, in which a gang of unfeasible
Flatliners? So it's not a terrible remake of Pet Sematary? It's a remake of a film that has nothing to do with Pet Sematary? Or Pet Graveyard? What?
visibly handsome young movie stars deliberately create near-death experiences and unwittingly bring the ghosts of the past back from beyond the veil.
Characters that go into near-death experiences. So it's pretty much a rip-off of every single film.
In classic mockbuster fashion here though, everything is done tongue-in-cheek, and throwing subtlety out the window, the movie's antagonist here is actually a guy dressed up as the Grim Reaper, with a distinctly bored-looking Sphinx cat occasionally in tow.
What Grim Reaper wears a freaking crucifix? Let's look at all the images of the Grim Reaper. No crucifix. No crucifix. No crucifix. Just a face. Just a skeleton. No crucifix. That's just rude.
Out the window, the movie's antagonist here is actually a guy dressed up as the Grim Reaper, with a distinctly bored-looking Sphinx cat occasionally in tow as well. You kind of have to be impressed. This is a rip-off hiding as another rip-off.
A rip-off hiding as another rip-off. So it's got the name of Pet Graveyard, which is a rip-off of Pet Cemetery. But the entire plot of the actual film has nothing to do with the title of the movie. What the hell? Offerings. Offerings. What film? What is another film that's almost like Offerings?
Offerings. Enormously
That looks like a film. That looks like the house that's in Paranormal Activity. No, not Paranormal Activity. Poltergeist.
John Carpenter's classic 1978 slasher Halloween still holds up as one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Offerings, on the other hand, is one of those so bad it's okay schlockfests beloved of horror fans across the globe. But everything here lifted from Halloween is awful.
I think I remember watching a film like this once when I was like, I don't know, like 12 or something. When I had such a shit TV. Honestly, I had such a terrible TV. It was like basically what my TV looks like now, but smaller. My TV looks like that, and it just had these random channels on. You know, it had a ton of random channels on. It would be in this room as well. You know, and this room would have been my bedroom back in the past. You know, so I just like open up my blanket and just go inside of the blanket, if you know what I mean. Those times where you make it out like your blanket's an actual den. So basically, I remember watching this film and it was like a very crappy version of Michael Myers. I remember it very vividly. I remember because it had this type of mask on, but it wasn't a Michael Myers mask. I remember one of the specific scenes was when this this supernatural being was on top of a roof. They were just watching it down at someone, and their face was sort of... It looked very Frankenstein. It had a Frankenstein look, but it wasn't Frankenstein. You know, he had like, you know, like basically his clothing looks like what a lumberjack would wear without the dungarees, and his face and his head, it just looked very Frankenstein monster look, you know. I remember it very vividly. And then there'd be another time where I'd watch another film and it was about like this coming to age film. I think it was a film, and it was about this like supernatural knife. Like, it looks like a supernatural knife because it didn't show anything about a ghost or anything. And there was this blonde kid who was being attracted to this knife, and he would just, you know, start killing people. And I remember it. They were in like this little woods area, and there was this brunette lad and a blonde lad, and the blonde lad is talking to the brunette lad, you know, and he's like, you know, just stabs him, and he's like, well, he didn't say I'm sorry. It's like, I don't know, I can't fully remember what he actually says, but I remember the scene very vividly. I remember the scenes, like, on point, just not what they say. I can't remember what they say, you know. And then it's obviously where one of the girls that's there, they just run away because they're scared shitless. And then the blonde lad is trying to follow them while also limping. But it was so good, I think. I remember it being so good. But no, let's continue.
Face mask of the killer to the familiar soundtrack to the childhood issues of the murderer in question.
Who the hell does that? Why would you do that? That's disgusting.
Funnily enough, it's where Offering strays from its rigid template that it starts to entertain, with some genuinely good comedic moments that actually land the way they were intended. You kinda get the impression that had the director just gone for an out-and-out parody, that they could have delivered something memorable. Number 5, Great White.
Great White, obviously being a rip-off from Jaws. I mean, every single shark film now is a rip-off of Jaws. However, Shark Attack Megalodon, that has its own twist to it because it's a megalodon. 6 feet down, 6 feet under, I think it's called. That has that own twist to it, you know, where those two girls are just trapped in a cage, 6 feet underwater, you know, and then they start hallucinating, thinking that they've been saved. Then there's... I ain't gonna say Sharknado. Sharknado can fucking die. Sharknado's a terrible film. Deep Blue Sea, that's a decent film. I think it's Reef Shark. Is it? I think it's Reef Shark, and that film is brilliant, and it's about this surfer, this female surfer. This female surfer has been told and warned about a shark. You know, a shark is in the water. You know, be careful, there might be a shark around. But she just ignores it anyway. You know, and then she goes surfing. And then a shark swims around and she sees it and then she starts panicking. You know, and then there's these Australian lads, you know, and at the beach, and she's trying to like, hey, there's a shark here. You know, one of the Australian lads is like, you know, looking, and like, you know, they go in and swim after her, and then they die, you know. So I think I remember people dying in the film. I mean, it's a short film, everyone dies.
Great White. This bad photocopy of Jaws essentially follows the same plot as
classic. Oh, what the frick is that?
Just free of the restraint.
What the hell? What the hell? Everyone knows that's a dummy.
The restraint that the film's original director displayed. And that's because the filmmakers here clearly thought that the only thing wrong with Jaws was the slow-burning menace, so here the film introduces its scene-stealing Quint variant early on, played by Vic Morrow in one of his last...
Oh no, it is literally a full-on rip-off from Jaws. They even got some to try and look like the captain of the ship.
and the shark bites the duplicitous mayor in half before dragging a helicopter underwater. Unlike the others on this list, this was so blatantly a rip-off that the film's planned North American release was halted after Universal Pictures successfully sued to have it blocked. As a result, it has never been released for home media or shown on TV in the US.
Good.
Of course, that didn't stop people getting bootlegs to see it for themselves to see just how close the two movies were. And it didn't stop the original distributors either, who took advantage of the lack of widespread information about overseas movie schedules to release their movie in Japan as an official sequel to Jaws, and in Spain as the sequel to Jaws 2. That's just...
You know, I think, like, when it comes to Jaws, they should have only just done one Jaws film. Only one. Jaws 1 was the best. That was a landmark in history. It was for film. It was a brilliant film. Jaws 2 was just shit. You know, like, when you compared the killings of the shark in the first one, you know, proper badass. You know, Brody, he's, you know, got his gun, got his rifle, you know, he's trying to aim at the canister that's in the shark's mouth, and he's like, smile, you son of a bitch. And he blows up in the middle of the ocean. Fantastic. The killing in Jaws 2, what it is electrical wire. He's just smacking it. Aye, come on. Aye, come on. And then holds it, and then the shark bites into it and gets electrocuted, and then just slides off back into the ocean. I mean, it doesn't really make any sense. It really doesn't, because you'd see other shark films of those sharks biting into electrical cables, and they're not going. They're not being electrocuted. You know, like, for example, Shark Attack 3 Megalodon is a fantastic film with John Barrowman in it. It is a brilliant film. Spectacular. I mean, when it comes to the actual big Megalodon, the CGI is just crap. You know, when it comes to people dying, it's just, disgusting. Then there's Jaws 3. And I cannot stress you enough. I don't even know why Jaws 3 was called Jaws 3. None of the original characters are in it. None of the original cast is in it. So bad. It was terrible. I couldn't even watch the entire film. You know, I could only watch about 10 minutes of it, and then I'm like, no, this is terrible.
Doing the olden days, I guess. Number 4, Grizzly. Now, while Shark Schlock has seen...
Grizzly, I'm guessing that's a shit remake of a documentary about Bigfoot?
a major renaissance in the last few years. I mean...
Oh, I forgot about this film. This other shark film. It's about a ghost shark. I remember watching this one time. I remember watching another shark film which was about, like, swamp shark. I remember that. Yeah, and I remember the swamp shark getting massacred by some guy that still has prosthetic legs. He's just... I think I remember it. I think it was something like that, you know. I remember the shark getting I remember the shark getting destroyed. I remember the shark getting opened. I remember the shark getting killed.
With ghost sharks and even Nazi sharks getting their own movies.
What the fuck? Nazi shark? A Nazi shark? Fuck me!
And oddly, most faithful rip-offs of Jaws doesn't actually feature a shark at all. Not even a robot one. Despite the fact that Jaws was still on general release at the time, and the elevator pitch for this movie, which was Jaws but with a giant man-eating bear, was ridiculously simple. 1976's Grizzly was only financed when it was brought to the legendarily dodgy B-movie producer, Edward L. Murtaugh. The resulting...
Come on! No, you can't call it a rip-off of Jaws. You can't call it a rip-off of Jaws. It doesn't have a freaking shark in it. It's just a terrible film. Call it a terrible film. It's not a rip-off of Jaws. It isn't. A rip-off of Jaws is all the other shark films.
Movie is almost beat for beat, character for character, a rehash of Jaws. The only slight variation aside from the monster and the setting is the character that stands in for Richard Dreyfuss's Hooper in the story being killed
Seriously, you're gonna have that tomato ketchup on his face?
and the giant prehistoric bear is also killed with a bazooka because
A bazooka! A bear? A grizzly bear killed by a bazooka. Here's a thought. Leave the frickin' bear alone. Leave it in its natural habitat. That's why it's pissed off with you, because you're not leaving it in its natural habitat.
of course it is, why not? Number 3, Back-Kazara, aka Bollywood.
I'm guessing that's a rip-off of Evil Dead. And Bollywood films are literally made as rip-off films. Bollywood, you know, it's like the Hillywood show. I like the Hillywood show songs, they're amazing. But it sounds like Bollywood films are like rip-off films.
Hollywood film industry is of course infamous for lifting plots and characters from Hollywood blockbusters wholesale, and hey, it can make for some really fun, daft movies. And that's exactly what happened with Back-Kazara, known unofficially as Bollywood Evil Dead.
What the fuck is that? You're not supposed to eat it when they're on the period. You're a woman, you should know. Fucking hell.
Sam Raimi's 1981 classic The Evil Dead so closely that it's in danger of tripping over it.
He's enjoying that way too much.
Despite coming out decades later, the filmmakers don't seem
Oh,
Raimi did.
come on.
Filmmakers don't
If you're gonna kill someone with an axe, don't do it slow motion like this.
seem to have budget Sam Raimi did back in the day. And hell, that original movie was famously made on a micro budget by talented and enthusiastic auteurs as a labour of love. It's actually not as bad as it sounds. The goofiness is a pretty good fit with the OTT aesthetic of the regular Evil Dead movies, and hey, if you're a devotee of the original movie and don't mind yourself a bit of Bollywood, you could probably find worse ways to spend 90 minutes. Number 2, Satan. Also known as Turkish Exorcist, which
What is that? That's a demented armadillo.
really says it all, Satan is essentially a scene-for-scene
Please tell me Satan's just like a crappy film with every single film that involves possessed people, and that is a rip-off from Exorcist. I don't know why it took me a while to think of it.
remake of William Friedkin's instant classic, made so swiftly that the original was still in Turkish.
But you know what? You know one character that I think would be brilliant if they made an Exorcist remake is Taylor Richardson. She, like, I reckon she would be brilliant as the Exorcist girl.
When this was released. As you can expect, all the big moments from The Exorcist are here. There are some of the big
What the frick is that? She looks like she's been on a few medication bills.
changes to the plot to make it read more naturally for its intended audience, but it's kind of shocking just how close this follows the original classic. There's a lot more that could have been done here, of course, but creativity was never the point of
That is horrifying! Oh, that's a horrifying thing to look at. Yikes.
this endeavour. This is exactly what it says on the tin of pea soup it came in. No more, no less. Number 1, Mahakal. One of the last films created by schlock legends, the Rams.
That is obviously a terrible film. Oh, that's a terrible remake of Nightmare on Elm Street.
A family business synonymous with popular horror cinema in India, Mahakal is more or less a straight lift of Wes Craven's 1984 classic A Nightmare on Elm Street. Only with an added extra 30 minutes or so of
Okay, I will never be able to get that image out of my head. I wish I can.
comedy and song and dance numbers to get the crowd going. The dedication to the bit here is actually kinda impressive, as the Ramsey brothers have religiously copied almost everything that isn't a Bollywood-style embellishment. The camera angles, the scene setups, the deaths, which are also cribbed from other entries in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, by the way, and even the soundtrack, which is essentially a re-recorded version of the original Nightmare on Elm Street score.
There was way too much shadow in that.
Freddy Krueger is not scary because of the knives on his fingers or the scars on his face. He's scary because he's the grotesque embodiment of the fear that we cannot keep our children safe from the horrors of the world. This dude though, he's just a big guy in a cheap mask. I'm afraid there's no substitute here for the original. I mean, even Hollywood found this out when they got Jackie Earle Haley to play Freddy in their remake. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think about these weird rip-offs of popular movies?
What I think about those weird rip-offs, they're weird rip-offs. They're terrible rip-offs. Right, if you want to see me react to some more what culture stuff, then please like the video, subscribe, and comment down below on just the weirdest film that you just saw. Goodbye.